Hello and welcome back to the Isovo Gaming channel for another game review. Actually, I've got a type of game which is pretty rare for the channel. We're doing a top-down, or angled top-down actually, basically what is called an isometric style game. I haven't really covered many of these, but I do like them and I've gotten more into them in recent years. I just didn't give them a chance in the past. But I decided to take some of my own advice and branch out a bit and try other games. Also, I wanted to mention quickly that I am sorry for the big gap in uploads the channel has been having. Unfortunately, it ever increasingly seems unlikely that YouTube is going to make me a gaming channel millionaire, and so I need to devote most of my time to trying to survive in the real world. I'm definitely going to keep making content and uploading when I can, but things have gotten substantially busier in my life and require more of my time, so I hope you can understand. Anyway, today we're looking at Vikings Wolves of Midgard, which originally released in 2017. This one was developed by Games Farm and published by Calypso Media. So what is Wolves of Midgard, and has it held up over the years? Hopefully we can come to an answer on that for you today as we look at this game and try to answer the most important question asked in this review series: is this one still worth it for you? Let's get into it. So what are we even looking at here? Well, let's try to set this up for you a bit. You play as either a warrior or shield maiden, who is the new chieftain of the Ulfung tribe. The Ulfung are a kind of ragtag tribe of outcasts and renegades, and their village, which is very creatively called Ulfung Village, is located on the shores of Midgard. The game itself is called Vikings, so you can expect to play as a Viking. That is, someone who has the job of being a Viking going on raids. But instead you're going to be playing as a tribal chief, or general, clan, or tribal warrior. The beginning of the game will throw you right into the thick of things, as the tutorial will have the village attacked by Jotun, or giants. Your character will need to fight off the invading enemies and save the village, after which you'll be proclaimed the chieftain. The world this takes place in is a mythological and fantasy world with a very strong Norse influence. Your people, the Ulfung, are unsurprisingly based on historical Norse peoples. But there will be other groups you meet along the way, including other Norse tribes, mythological tribes of giants or other fantasy races, as well as other groups, such as one who has people who are mostly clad in armor and has kind of a Teutonic Order feel, and has members who are Templars or Crusaders, that kind of thing. So overall, think a high fantasy version of Northern Europe with a major emphasis on Norse mythology. So I often see Titan Quest as a comparable title to Vikings Wolves of Midgard. I haven't actually played that game, but it is on my radar to get to eventually. That said, it does look like it has quite a few similarities. It's another isometric RPG and has a focus on mythological and fantasy settings. A franchise I have played which does have some similarities is Diablo. Now, I think when it comes to these isometric RPGs, they can typically always be compared to Diablo, and really a lot of people just end up calling everything that follows this formula a Diablo clone. Whenever a game comes along and creates a groundbreaking new style, then inevitably when other games come out that are similar, people are just going to call them clones. If you can remember, after GTA came out, everything that had driving in an open world city was being called a GTA clone. Anyway, another game that I wanted to mention, if you can remember all the way back to Viking Battle for Asgard, again you have a game which is labeled Viking, where you essentially play as a tribal warrior or leader fighting in a high fantasy world based on Norse mythology. This one was a third-person action adventure, so there's obvious differences, but there was some similarity in story and feel of the game. And really that's all I've got for you today for comparable games. I'm just going to end it there. Like I said, you could probably make a ton of comparisons to other action RPG isometric games, but really I think you get the idea. If you have some other suggestions of ones that you think are close, definitely feel free to throw them down in the comments for other people. So in terms of mechanics, like I said, we've got an angled top-down or isometric game. A lot of the game involves collecting resources, which can be done by completing missions or zones, as well as collecting things from the environment. This is usually done by smashing environmental objects. Actually, there's going to be a lot of random stuff around the world as you progress that you can smash, and I recommend smashing everything you can. It might feel a little bit repetitive, but it's a great way to gather items and resources that you will need, and will save you a ton of grind time later on. Speaking of damaging things in the environment actually plays a big part in changing the game and how it can damage you. As you progress throughout the game, different zones might be environmental damage areas. Think things like extreme cold, heat, etc. You can also collect items and equip things like armor, which will have resistances to these. So it's good to pay attention to what items you have equipped when going into different areas. Personally, I didn't play the game with anyone else, but there is a 2-player co-op available, either local or online. And apparently it is possible to inflict friendly fire, so make sure you watch out for that. To get new skills and abilities, you're going to need to level up your character. And this is essentially where the RPG part comes in, as you won't be getting in much role-playing in the form of decisions or which direction to take. Basically, as you defeat enemies, you'll collect blood, and once you collect enough, you can trade this in at an altar to level up base stats like health, damage, attack speed, elemental resistance, and armor, as well as picking up skills depending on which god you choose as your patron. Choosing your god is essentially choosing your skill tree that you will then pick different passive and active skills to unlock and improve. Now back to the Ulfung village I mentioned. As you progress through the game, you're going to find new villagers who have different skills which will unlock new things in your village, like a shop or a rune master. After unlocking them, they can also be improved with resources, and will provide services like buying or selling or crafting new equipment. Be prepared, as you're likely going to need to grind out levels and resource collecting, which is done by going on raids, which are again not really Viking raids, as they're usually more along the lines of go and kill a bunch of wolves and replaying zones, and less about attacking and raiding an undefended monastery for silver and captives, like every good Viking should. Also, a point about grinding: if you don't like grinding for levels and resources, then in terms of this game, well...
And you have to do it. You have to.
Graphics are alright, though not spectacular by any means. Environments look pretty basic, though you will get some variety as you play through, which is nice to change it up. There's a bit of variety in enemies as well, but over time you'll start to feel like you're defeating the same creatures over and over again. NPCs didn't really stand out much, and personally I felt like they all just start looking the same. Unfortunately though, at least for me, this does seem like a common issue with these types of games, and is actually why I stayed away from isometric games for so long. I'm sure there's going to be people disagreeing with me, and trust me, I think it's really great if you enjoy this style and it works for you. It's just something that has just really never clicked with me. So what's setting this game apart from others? Well, most of it feels pretty standard for the genre. The unique points, of course, are going to be the setting, which is fantasy Norse, and the story itself. Looking at the story, though, it's not going to feel super original. Basically, it follows the plot of main character's village is attacked. Main character is, of course, the toughest one around and becomes the leader. Main character then leads the people against the attackers, and of course discovers there are deeper machinations at work. It's fine, serviceable, nothing groundbreaking.
Who would have thought that Ulfung village, home to outcasts and renegades, would give rise to he who might save us all?
In terms of bugs, I ran into a ton of them throughout this game. If you don't grind enough, boss battles can be very tough to get through. Fortunately or unfortunately, many times I found it didn't matter, as on more than one occasion, the boss would just bug out during the battle and stand there while I smashed them over and over. I have no idea what causes this issue, or if it was something that I was doing that caused it to happen, but considering it happened multiple times with different bosses, I would say it's more than coincidental and is some bug that was just never addressed. I really wasn't won over in the sound department. The voice acting was fairly low bar, and some things such as when enemies were defeated just sounded like a game much older and could be very comical in a bad way at times. For the sound, it is really subjective to the individual, so I'll just play some examples and you can make up your own mind on it.
Death to the enemies of the old
Time is neither wheel nor arrow. It flows like a river with all its whirls and torrents. Now, it flows towards icy death for all the 9 worlds.
This brine will suffice.
Let me guess. Protect you while you collect some seawater.
Do you want this sky-clearing spell to work, or do you just want to bitch at me?
So for anyone new to the channel, I usually try to keep the first part of the video mostly objective and just go over what the game is and what you can expect in a mostly story spoiler-free way. In this last part, I'm still going to try to keep out story spoilers, but I'm going to give a more subjective opinion on what I thought of the game, and if I would recommend it. Really, it doesn't matter for you though, as you should decide if you want to try it based on what you saw in the first part, and this is really just for fun. Obviously, whether or not I enjoyed the game isn't going to make a difference for you, as we could have entirely different tastes, and that's alright. Oh, and just one other quick point, there's no rating, numbers or stars, or whatever else people are using now, as I think this is a waste of time in something subjective like this, as you can't really quantify it anyway. So did I enjoy Vikings Wolves of Midgard?
No, not Vikings.
Honestly, not really, no. The game feels much older than it is, in everything from level design to graphics to sound and voice acting, really everything. It's grindy, it's buggy, and really after about an hour or so, I was questioning why I was still playing the game. I came into the game wanting to like it. As I said earlier, I've been getting into these isometric games, and on top of that, I'm typically a fanboy for anything Norse and Nordic mythology. That said, this felt like a bland story with a Norse mythology skin. The protagonist is extremely difficult to connect with. I'm not sure if there's a difference if you play as different character types, like the Shield Maiden for instance, but if you play as the warrior, he's essentially just a psychotic killer devoid of anything interesting who runs around killing and smashing everything. Here's where you may say something like, but hey, look at the Elder Scrolls games, the protagonist has very little character there and just runs around mindlessly taking out bandits and anything else that gets in your way. But the big difference with those games is they give you an empty slate on purpose so that you can roleplay and build your character as you see fit and try to become that character. In Wolves of Midgard, your character will respond with annoying answers to things and you have essentially zero choice or decision making as to what to do. You just get told to go to point A, destroy everything and everyone, and return. And that's it, over and over. And to make things worse, you'll likely need to revisit those locations to destroy everything and everyone once again, as you'll need to grind for levels and resources if you have any chance of defeating the next zone's boss. Or you could always just hope for the mysterious boss bug, which does happen quite frequently, to just freeze the boss in place and let you smash them mercilessly for an hour until you win. I found very little in the way of redeeming qualities with this one. If I had to say anything, I guess the mindless nature of its hack and slash means you can completely turn off your brain and just go into autopilot. And maybe that's a good choice for people looking for just that. Say you've just come home from work or school and don't want to think or have some heavy story, and you literally just want to go around smashing and taking out everything. Which I guess there could be some appeal for that. Personally, what I've been enjoying coming into isometric games is the deep story and character building that many of them allow for, and this game just doesn't have it. You do get some choice, like for instance which god you choose, and as such it will alter your active and passive abilities, but really regardless of which path you go down, it's going to get repetitive over time. My final verdict is that I personally wouldn't recommend it, as there seems to be so many other options out there that do everything this game tries to do, but better. Though if you are wanting a game with grindy, mindless hack and slash that takes place in a world loosely built on Norse mythology, and don't mind the bugs that come along with it, then maybe this one is for you, and you should check it out. I hope you enjoyed this look at Vikings Wolves of Midgard. Have you already played this game? Let me know down in the comments what you thought of it, and if you agree or disagree with my own opinion. If the video was helpful or entertaining, please give me a like here, as it really helps me out, and consider subscribing to the channel. I post a bunch of different gaming content, not just reviews but also walkthroughs and other videos, and would love to have you join the community and help direct the future of the channel. Otherwise, thank you so much for taking the time to watch today, And until next time, take care.